Hello my dear friends, you're in the military summary channel, and in this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the Ukrainian conflict. Overnight the Ukrainians attacked the territory of the Russian Federation once again using hundreds of drones, and this picture was published this morning by pro-Ukrainian sources. Here we can see the approximate routes of a Ukrainian attack. As you can see, most of the roads, most of the arrows are moving in the northern direction towards the Leningrad region. The sources are saying that the Ukrainians used 190 drones to attack the territory of Russia. And as you can see, this is not the first attack that have been carried out by the Ukrainians since the beginning of the previous week. I would like to remind you that since the beginning of the previous week, the Ukrainians attacked this region, the Leningrad region, multiple times, and the Ukrainians almost completely destroyed the Ust-Luga port infrastructure. We received lots of videos, we have a lots of pictures, satellite images, comparisons of the territory between the dates and so on. Lots of videos were published by different sources at the moment of attack and several days later. So this object of fuel infrastructure in the area of the city of Ust-Luga was significantly damaged, and during the same period of time the Ukrainians also attacked the port infrastructure and oil infrastructure in the area of the port of Primorsk. Here we have also lots of pictures, lots of analysis on this matter. So as you can see, the Ukrainians decided to attack in this direction once again between the 30th and the 31st of March of 2026, thinking that this attack will be successful. But as of the morning of the 31st of March of 2026, we haven't received anything that can confirm that this attack carried out by the Ukrainians overnight was successful. The Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation also confirmed that overnight the Russians destroyed hundreds of drones. Just between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. the Russians destroyed 92 drones. Between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. the Russians destroyed 98 drones, and between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. the Russians destroyed 58 drones. So as you can see, hundreds of drones were destroyed, and most of them were flying in the northern directions. Another important thing is that during the previous night we received very interesting analysis on the matter of results of Ukraine attacks that took place during the previous week. If you remember, several days ago the Ukrainians attacked in the direction of the city of Yaroslavl. More precisely, the Ukrainians were trying to attack the Yaroslavsky oil refinery, and this satellite picture was published this morning. And as you can see, according to this picture, over the night, on the night of March 28, the Ukrainians managed to destroy at least two fuel reservoirs on the territory of this oil refinery. So we can say that that attack brought results to Ukrainians. Also, during the same days, almost at the same time, the Ukrainians attacked in the direction of the city of Samara. More precisely, the Ukrainians attacked the city of Chapayevsk. And these satellite pictures were published this morning. And as you can see, according to these satellite pictures, this attack haven't brought any results to Ukrainians. A total of 3 missiles were launched, one was shot down, and 2 more hit near the production workshops. So as you can see, despite the fact that we have lots of videos and lots of missiles and drone attacks from the Ukrainian side, we see that not all of them, despite the fact that we have lots of videos with explosions, not all of these explosions means that Ukrainians managed to hit something. Now let's talk about Ukraine. Overnight, the Russians also attacked the territory of Ukraine, and according to the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, the Russians used 280 drones to attack the territory of Ukraine. But as of the morning of the 31st of March of 2026, basically we haven't received anything. Very difficult to say what exactly the Russians were attacking. We don't have videos, we have nothing that can confirm whether the Russians managed to deal damage. Most likely the Russians managed to, but as of now we don't have additional information on this matter. Another important video is coming from the city and from the area of the city of Kryvyi Rog, and here we can see how the Ukrainians were transferring locomotives from the area of the city of Kryvyi Rog, probably in the northwestern direction towards the western parts of Ukraine. I would like to remind you that during the previous days the Russians were over-concentrated on in attacking these objects of logistic infrastructure. The Russians destroyed lots of locomotives of Ukraine, and we understand that locomotives locomotives are very expensive and very unique as assets in Ukrainian economy and military logistics. So that is why the Ukrainians decided to remove the locomotives from the area of the front line towards more reliable positions, most likely somewhere in the western parts of Ukraine. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the northern directions. During the previous nights we received lots of very interesting updates, and first let's talk about the most northern part. This video was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how Ukrainians were discovering and searching for Russian positions on the territory of the settlement, and when they discovered them, they began bombing and attacking them. So this video took place right exactly in this area, and I would like to remind you that several days ago the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation confirmed that the settlement of Sopich was captured by Russians, and as you can see, during the previous night we received a video that confirmed this information. Another important area is the Sumy direction itself. This morning the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation and the group of forces north reported that the Russians, as a result of clashes, as a result of decisive actions, managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Mala Karchakovka. So this is a very important piece of news published by pro-Russian sources, because Mala Karchakovka is not just another settlement, small settlement or village that was captured by Russians. The settlement of Mala Karchakovka is a part of the second defense layer of the city of Sumy. So the second defense layer of the city of Sumy is the territory between the villages of Khotin, Pisrevka, Ivolzhanskaya, Kanitsa, Hrapivshina, Marina, Novosich, Karchakovka, Mala Karchakovka, and so on. So as you can see, one of the villages of this defense layer was already captured by Russians. The Russians managed to shorten the distances to these villages to a minimal value, and now the Russians from these positions of Mala Karchakovka are able to begin using these huge forests with the purpose to keep advancing further in the southern direction, with the purpose to establish complete control over the second defense layer of the city of Sumy and to shorten the distances to the city of Sumy itself to a minimal level. So this is a very important piece of news, and most likely in coming days the Russians will intensify their activities in this direction. Now let's move further and let's talk about the Kupiansk direction. These days we are receiving lots of updates about the northern Kupiansk direction with significant changes. Let's discuss everything in details. During the previous 3 days, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation reported that as a result of clashes, the Russians captured the villages of Kovsharovka and Novoasinova, which are located on the eastern bank of the river Voskol. So, and according and based on these reports, we can say that the battle for the eastern bank of the river Voskol in its northern Kupiansk direction is about to be finished. Maybe there are still pockets of resistance and Ukrainian positions, but with this configuration of the front line, it's just a matter of time when the Russians would be able to force the Ukrainians to fall back from this territory. Another important area is the city of Kupiansk itself, because these days we start receiving updates from the northwestern parts that was recaptured by the Ukrainians during the January, February and March counteroffensive operations. And starting on April of 2026, we began receiving updates that the Russians these days once again were recorded. So the Russian troops were once again recorded on the territory of the northwestern parts of the city, and as we can see, the Russians are keeping advancing and the Russians are taking more and more territories under their control. So right now in front of your screens you can see how the map has been changed since the 28th of March of 2026. So this is the end of the 28th, so this is the end of the 29th, and this is the beginning of the 31st of March of 2026. The Russians, as we can see, managed to improve their position significantly, and furthermore we have proofs, we have videos that confirm this situation. We have lots of updates, we have lots of strikes that were carried out by the Ukrainians on positions of the armed forces of the Russian Federation in this region. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Slaviansk direction. Overnight we received just a video from the central part of the city, and here we can see how the Russians attacked the city with aviation, dealing significant damage. So it seems that there was 2 videos published from the same area. So this video was published by pro-Russian sources, by pro-Russian military sources. We can see the same region that was attacked by the aviation, and here we can see the same video but from another angle angle made by a civilian from the city of Slaviansk itself. So the Russians are intensifying their bombardments of the Slaviansk-Kramatorsk agglomeration, which means that most likely the Russians realized that the Ukrainians are not going to withdraw their troops from this area, and that the Russians would be forced to establish control over the territory with military and physical means, but not using the diplomatic means. The city of Konstantinovka, during the previous 20 nights, huge activities of the Russian forces were recorded around the settlement of Dovga Balka. Lots of videos were published by pro-Russian sources of how they were attacking positions and temporary deployment points of the armed forces of Ukraine through the village. And as you can see, the village, according to this video, is almost reduced to ruins, which means that maybe in coming days the Russians will improve their positions around these settlements significantly and will receive first changes on the ground in this region. As for the Dobropolye direction, nothing special, and as for the Zaporozhye direction, nothing special as well. We have covered the most interesting updates about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine. That's about the most interesting events that took place during the previous 12 hours. Now let's talk about the conflict in the Middle East. And first, let's discuss the most important statements that were made by the US authorities. During the previous 12 hours, the Secretary of State Marco Rubio made lots of very interesting statements on the matter of the conflict on the territory of Iran. Basically, he provided us the main objectives and goals of the United States of America. Here, the clear goals of the US operation in Iran. You should write them down, says Secretary of State Rubio. Destruction of Iran's air forces, destruction of their navy forces, serious reduction of their missile launch capabilities, destruction of their factories so they can't produce more missiles and drones that threaten us in the future, and we will achieve these goals in a few weeks, not in a few months. So this is a very important statement, because if you remember at the beginning of this operation that the United States of America started on the 28th of February of 2026, there was another goal, another thing that the United States of America were tasked for, and we are talking about preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. So as you can see, for the previous 8 days, for the previous months, the United States of America have changed their goals, and currently they don't run after this task to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Or maybe the Secretary of State Rubio forgot about this detail. Who knows? Another important thing is that demilitarization of Iran is the main goal of the US military operation. But the most important and the most interesting situation is that the United States of America is not ready to launch a ground operation on the territory of Iran. So now we see lots of media insights, a lot of media updates that the United States of America will continue bombing and attacking the state of Iran until the Iranian military capabilities are being reduced to ruins, and then the United States of America will leave this territory and will keep and will leave the Strait of Hormuz completely unblocked. And most likely the states of the Persian Gulf would be tasked by themselves to unblock the Persian Gulf by themselves. We're talking about, of course, Saudi Arabia, we're talking about United Arab Emirates, Qatar and Bahrain, and of course Kuwait. As for these states, we understand that currently they are not able to fight with the Iranians without help of the United States of America. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and other Gulf allies are privately urging the US to continue fighting Iran, as they believe the regime has not been weakened enough. The United Arab Emirates is reportedly the most hawkish, even publishing for ground invasion, while Oman and Qatar favor diplomacy. Saudi officials believe that ending the war now will not produce a satisfactory outcome. So we understand this because the Iranians are backed by China and the Russian Federation, and obviously the Iranians are forced to pay less money and less finance for this support, while the states of Persian Gulf, if they stay one-on-one with the Iranians, would be forced to give all money they have with the purpose to purchase additional weapons, missiles and equipment to fight with the Iranians, with the purpose either to unblock the Strait of Hormuz or at least to return to the situation before the 28th of February. As for the current situation, we received lots of updates from the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians, according to information we have, attacked another tanker in this area. The tanker belonged to Kuwait. This attack most likely took place overnight, which means that the Iranians still control the situation in this region. Furthermore, we received reports and additional pictures and satellite pictures about the consequences of previous days' attacks. Lots of destructions were dealt by the Iranians to the US bases through the region. Furthermore, we are keeping updates that the coalition continue bombing and attacking the territory of Iran and continue bombing and attacking its objects of economical infrastructure. From the other side, we see that the Israelis are also not sitting on the same place. They're moving, they're developing the situation. I would like to remind you that several days ago, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, ordered to increase the buffer zone in the southern parts of Lebanon, and during the previous night, additional changes on the ground were recorded. So according to information we have, during the previous days, or more precisely since the beginning of the operation in the southern parts of Lebanon against the pro-Iranian proxies, the Israelis managed to improve the buffer zone significantly, almost in every single direction, in the southern and in the northern directions as well. According to sources, Israel reached the Litani River and continued the expansion of the buffer zone, which means that the proxy Iranian forces are forced to fall back further in the northern direction. And according to different sources, the main task of the Israelis is to establish or to create a buffer zone along this river of Litani, which will become something like a natural barrier, and this will allow the Israelis to secure the northern and the central parts of Israel against missile attacks from the Lebanon side. And that's it for today, for the short video. The Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.